But if I slur, please know it's not like I've been on a bender. I just,
I mean,
it's part of it.
yeah. I'm so sorry that you're joining us today when you should just be resting. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for letting me participate. And as I'm mentioning, and I know we're starting soon, I'm presenting some court documents, which I have not shown publicly before. Mark Ramsayer and Jason Morgan.
Oh God, Mark Ramsayer, oh my goodness, okay.
That's my talk.
Okay.
That's my talk.
I didn't know
these
that
guys.
they did it, okay.
I was in court for 2 years, but unlike, I'll go.
Hi, Alexis.
Hey,
This is
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm so glad you can still join us.
I am so sorry not to be there. So
Oh,
sorry not to be there present physically, but I am there emotionally. You have all of me.
Next time we have to get together in person.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
My gosh, so you'll be speaking about this shortly, but what hell? I mean, they just basically,
No, and so,
they
but
waged
we think of,
warfare against you, you know?
no, but I live in a state, thank God, it's a blue state, right? And this is during COVID, and sorry, this is gonna be my talk, but I had 4 lawyers paid for by the University of Connecticut. But I have at least 6 colleagues throughout the United States.
Backed you up. That's
Yes,
extraordinary.
100%.
Okay, like if it were
100%.
about Palestine, they would not.
I don't know, that's still out to debate, because no one's been fired for this. I'm a little worried about my colleagues who teach American history. We are a purple state, if that's fair to say, but Connecticut really believes in law and order. So yes, on the Palestine issue, two graduations ago, I went to commencement and there were state troopers. And it was unpleasant because they thought that there was gonna be a riot and the president, you know, whatever. That was BS. But if a professor wants to say something, the university will back it up if the professor has evidence. And so it's an interesting comparator. I don't know, because I've been in Singapore for 2 years, which is so bizarre, because in Singapore, my classroom, which does not have freedom of speech, does not have academic freedom, I was able to talk about anything because I was not talking about the government of Singapore. I was teaching Japanese history. But I don't know what's going to happen in September, because when I teach my Korean War class, I'm not going to pull punches, but I don't know, and I'll let you know what happens, because students film everything, they report everything, but we aren't Texas.
Yeah. Well, even California, it's such a challenging environment. For using the term genocide, I was described as a committing blood.
Well, I am sitting in a 300-year-old house, which was founded on genocide, because this is Pequot land, and I am good friends with the tribal chair, and every time he comes over, because my kid went to school with his kids, and every time he comes over, he's like, give me my land back. I'm like, you could mow my lawn. And so we talk about it that way, but like, Connecticut is a weird state this way. And we are in the crosshairs because we are, governor is Democrat, 2 senators, we've got Blumenthal, seriously the smartest senator I've ever met, 2 senators, everybody's blue. And I'm a local elected official, but we are all still getting along at town meeting, and I've been doing town meeting virtually for 2 years from Singapore. We're not having book bans. We're not. Yep. And I actually set the tax rate
That's so strange, but you know, I have an exceedingly spare introduction to you, Alexis, if you wanted to send something more, I would love to.
No, because the thing that I always believe, and it always makes me nervous with sex slavery issues, this isn't about those of us who advocate. It's about the survivors, it's about the history, and this isn't about me. I'm a professor of history at the University of Connecticut, and that's all we need. Because these women, these girls, I mean, you know, I don't know whether you know how I first got involved in this was at the 2000 Women's Tribunal. And a survivor from Korea, and they were from everywhere. But it was a South Korean, because there were North Koreans. There were like 12 from North Korea.
In a way, that setting was the stage for a small version of the
It was exactly. And a survivor grabbed my arm, and this survivor had actually had her breasts cut off. And this survivor said, she was just screaming at me in Korean, which I still could understand, and she said, "You have to tell my story." And I am not a journalist, like I like writing about dead people because that's what I'm comfortable with. But that changed my life because I can still feel it. You tell my story. You tell my story. And so it's their story, it's not my story, and I've tried so hard to navigate, like, how do you make this story, I have, and this may sound really strange, but when I say I'm conservative, I'm like box. I wish I had your courage. That's what I mean by conservative. I don't mean, like, of course I vote the right way. I mean, I am conservative. And so I thought, okay, how can I do this? So I just looked up, how do you win a Nobel Prize? And you have to have certain things. You have to, I mean, you can't nominate someone for a Nobel Prize. I can. I think that's bullshit. You have to have a PhD, you have to be a priest, or you have to have won a Nobel Prize, or you have to be a president. The rules for who wins a Nobel Prize in peace is ridiculous. But I thought, okay, if I can model my career and fit in that box and tell the truth, then maybe I can change things. Because the other team does not listen to people screaming into the wind. And I feel as if I scream into the wind, but I need to scream into the wind and land. And that's what has guided me, because when that woman grabbed my arm, and she was still like 65, right? It's tooth, right? And now they're 90, but she grabbed my arm and she said, "You get my story out there." I was like, okay, I gotta do this. Yeah, I got it. 5 minutes.
6
Yeah.
minutes, actually. So I'm gonna get my computer and a few other things.
I'm gonna go get another grass jelly. These things are amazing.
Oh, really?
They're like the,
Yeah.
it's like those little ones that what is it, popo, the ones that are grapes inside cans.
Right, and saksak? Yeah.
Yeah, the saksak, that's the one.
Yeah.
I'm having a Malaysian saksak.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, all right, cool.
Oh, is there any? Is there any? Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Oh, no, I'm fine. We thought that pizza was coming. Pizza?
We had some issues with the Ubers.
Oh.
So sorry.
No, it's okay.
No,
No, thank you. I don't do, I can't, we're vegetarian and I don't do any gluten, but it's okay. Thank you. She'll have cake. I'll have a ball.
Because we are having some of those paralysis today. Would you be able to? Yeah, because like with more, we thought like she needs to like
Communicate?
she needs time to.
Yes. So what, do I just?
Yes,
I have no idea.
Yeah, 2 slides.
All I'll do is I'll just go back to
이미 말씀했어요. 네, 전달드렸어요. Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to the second session of the first day of this conference. And I wanted to thank Samson for all of her organizing energy, all the many years of labor, dedication, commitment that have gone into basically something that distinguishes your life work. And this is also part of the educational process, having events like this. I'd like to thank Monica and other people who have put time and effort to make this possible. My name is Christine Hong. I am faculty at UC Santa Cruz, and I'm in two departments. One is ethnic studies, and the other one is literature. And I also, I have been doing organizing around different Korea issues for a number of years. And it just so happens to be that I have a connection with Alexis that goes way back many, many years ago. And it was during, in the immediate wake of the Axis of Evil era, I first met Alexis, who was close to a number of faculty who were part of an organization called the Alliance of Scholars Concerned About Korea. And what was so deeply impressive to me at that time was how Alexis ceaselessly showed up in solidarity in those spaces. So Alexis Dudden is a professor at the University of Connecticut. She's a historian of East Asia who focuses on modern Japan and Korea. And her scholarship, both public and academic, and we can blur the distinction between those categories, has been so consequential in actually helping to shape the terrain to make claims for justice. And so her early work, her first book was Japan's Colonization of Korea, and this was published by University of Hawaii Press. And she had another book that was so absolutely timely in that historical juncture, and remains so now, Troubled Apologies Among Japan, Korea, and the United States, and this was published by Columbia University Press. And Alexis had planned to be with us in person, but has heroically joined us from afar. And Alexis, we know that thank you so much too. You're going to speak about something that literally hits close to home, and I have the pleasure of being able to mine the slides. So if you could just tell me when you would like me to advance something, I'd be more than happy to do so. So I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay, and so Christine, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your astonishing work. I hope the audience knows that you and Gloria Steinem crossed.
That's not me. That's not me. I do not claim to be. That's Christine On, and there's lots to be said there, but that's not me.
My super bad, but both of you are my heroes in activism, and I apologize for messing that up. And now I'm going to explain to the audience why my brain is sideways right now. So please, I was going with Christine. Please, everybody in the room understand I have had epilepsy since I was 3, and I am 57 now, and it works in different ways. And it hit yesterday when I was in the Boston airport, checked in, and I had a seizure, can't be there, and I'm so sorry. And Christine, I deeply apologize. I focus on nouns and evidence, and your first name just tricked me, and I apologize for messing that up. But you know what? Christine A and Christine H, which is where my brain is right now, both do astonishing work for what we all believe in, which is peace in Northeast Asia. There does not need, we could all sit back right now. First of all, thank you, Monica. Thank you, Seren. Thank you for the sponsors of this conference, which deeply matters because we're here to talk about the survivors, the victims, and the history of militarized sexual slavery. And we're talking also about how the Japanese government is going full throttle right now to write this out of existence. That's what my few words will refer to. But I would like to recognize everybody in the room that I can't quite see, and I'm so sorry not to be there because I so deeply believe in the truth of this history and the truth of what we're all speaking about that it drives my life. But don't worry, it's not this history that gives me seizures in the airport. That's a totally different backstory. That's like the thing. But if I slur, if I mix up nouns, I ask your forbearance. But I am about to show you what is the problem with Japan. And the problem with Japan is the United States covers Japan's lies. And that's as clear as I can say it, but I'm going to show you how this works in real time. So Christine, if we could go to the first slide, please. Okay, so this is I was accused of, actually the accusation is pretty awesome. I'm accused of leading an international conspiracy against the government of Japan. This is an actual court document. And I'm like, really? I would love to be able to lead an international conspiracy against the government of Japan. I am not. This court case, which I'll circle back to at the end of my talk, began on March 28th, 2020. Just quick quiz for everybody in the room. What were you doing March 28th or even April 2020?
COVID.
Exactly. This is the beginning of lockdown. These guys started going after me the beginning of lockdown. So I got in touch with a colleague in Tokyo who wishes to remain nameless. And one thing I would really like to underscore is I would have no evidence without my colleagues in Japan. So I think all of us working on this topic respect how much our colleagues in Japan do. We're not here, it's not like an us versus them thing, and the whole like, oh, Japanese school children in LA are being targeted. No, that's not happening. So my colleague in Japan, I wrote her recently and I said, so you gotta help me out because what is going on? And I'm quoting her email. Several years ago, I recall someone saying that the right wing sees the comfort women issue won and secured domestically. The main battleground is abroad. Part of the reason is the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs website is so full of denialist content. If we could go to the next slide, please. So I focus on evidence because I am like an old school history teacher. And I just think if you have some evidence to back it up, you have a point. But there is a way of denying evidence that is so banal, it seems really easy. The expression so-called in Japanese, iwayuru, and it makes it already sound as if the evidence is suspect. And then there's the misuse of books, partial quotation. Could I have the next slide, please? And then, is there one book? No, I guess not. Okay, so I got that wrong. No, it's perfect, good. So then what's interesting is we know what happened. We know that Kim Hak-sun came forward and we know that she told the truth. And in the meantime, while the Ministry of Foreign Affairs does not want to tell the truth, the current Prime Minister of Japan, Takaichi Sanae, who, thank heavens, and literally I wake up every morning saying, I hope she has not said anything about comfort women. She has yet to wade into this issue. Currently, she's trying to, flex her muscles by being strong with China vis-a-vis the Taiwan issue. But she's been his acolyte. She's been former Prime Minister Abe's acolyte for decades as a parliamentarian, doing all the questioning. 1997, 2003, she wrote on her blog that school textbooks should, quote, not contain lies, which in American political language is called a dog whistle, right? So these are dog whistles that the Japanese government sends to their followers to shore up their base. And then we fast forward to April 2021. Prime Minister Abe was still alive. He had resigned as prime minister. He was promoting Takaichi, and she asked specifically about the forcible removal and the forcefully taking victims away. These are quotations that I'll show you in just a quick second. And the result was new. It was a Japanese government cabinet-approved response, which is now what the Foreign Ministry puts on its website as evidence that it didn't happen, which is in a direct contradiction of the Kono statement. If we could go to the next slide, please. So those of us who remember 1993, there were all sorts of, we wanted more, right? And so we wanted everything in the 90s because everything was possible. And it's only it's one generation ago, and it seems so distant past. But most importantly is if we go down to undeniably, this was an act with the involvement of the military authorities of the day that severely injured the honor and dignity of many women. What they need to add is children, because that's the war crime. The government of Japan would like it to take again you all can read. But my point is, the government of Japan in 1993 acknowledged Japanese government involvement. And that is what is being erased right now. Could we please go to slides 6 and 7? Sorry, no, thank you. Okay, so this is the current Government of Japan webpage. I checked again 15 minutes ago, same one. And you see, forceful taking away could not be confirmed in any of the documents that the government of Japan was able to identify. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is the government of Japan, which in direct contradiction to the Kono statement, which we are verging on August 14th and 15th, significant days, which Takaichi has not yet had an August statement. She will have to say something, and it will be interesting. But so since 2021, the study of the issue of the so-called comfort women conducted by GOJ could not confirm in any of the documents identified. This is where language gets really interesting and very legalistic.
So vague.
But this is what is now infecting what Japanese people believe, because, okay, well, it didn't happen, so quote unquote, the Koreans are lying. Could we go to the next slide, please? And my thesis moving forward is, if you can't confirm, then you can't deny. And so now, if we could go to slide 8. What's important for all of us working on this issue is to realize how much of the evidence was burned, was destroyed. And this is not solely about comfort women. It is Unit 731, forced labor, but it is estimated that at least 70% of the Army's wartime record was destroyed. And then I think also important to recognize, in 2014, the government of Japan passed a new secrecy law. And nobody actually understands what counts as a secret because it's not public. But there are, as of today, close to 500,000 pieces of paper in Japanese government archives that have been declared a secret. So even if one were fortunate to find the silver bullet, as it were, of a piece of paper, it might be a secret, so you don't even know how to research anymore. Could we go to the next slide, please? And so two things matter. Evidence will always surface. I had the privilege of being in Singapore at the National University for the past 2 years teaching Japanese history. And while I was there, somebody was excavating for building a new building and unearthed a whole trove of documents from Japan's occupation of Singapore, which happened to do with Japan's branch campus of Unit 731. These don't relate to Singapore's comfort women, but evidence will surface, and it will continue to be able to prove what the deniers say did not happen. Next slide, please. And what this boils down to, and again, especially those of you who live in LA in wonderful communities where everybody gets along until different governments get involved, this boils down to a question of who counts as Japanese. Because if, like these three people, one believes that these histories of horror happened, then you get called not Japanese in your own neighborhood in Tokyo. These three people live in Tokyo. These three people have been ostracized, have been targeted. The woman on the right, whom I'll come to in a second, Mina Watanabe, she's had her office firebombed. So if we could go to the next slide, please. And we definitely don't hear about them. So if we go back one. Oh, is it this one? Oh, sorry, I apologize. So this is also my second thesis. I love this statement from Camus. In a world of conflict, a world of victims and executioners, it is the job of thinking people, like everybody in the room, all of us who create and try, not to be on the side of the executioners. And I just think that that's why, we try so hard, because we believe in the stories the people who have suffered the most are telling us to express. Christine, if we could go to the next slide. So Totsuka Etsuro, the Japanese man who was in the middle of that prior slide, he's the guy who, the gentleman, who coined the term sexual slavery. He's a renowned international lawyer in Japan, and he presented it to the UN in the mid-1990s, and he said, what we're talking about, what Kim Hak-sun has suffered, this is sexual slavery. And we know that many of the survivors do not like the term. We understand that. Halmoni is a nice way of expressing respect. Ama in Taiwan, for example. The grandmothers collectively. However, what Totsuka Sensei was recognizing is this is something that is not over with Japan's history of this. And so, for example, the reason that Vladimir Putin today is a war criminal, or is named a war criminal, is not because Russia invaded the Ukraine, but because he and his home minister trafficked girls from the Ukraine to Russia, and people don't know where they are. And that is a war crime, thanks to the bravery of the survivors of Japan's history, who came forward at the UN that in 1996 was declared a crime against humanity because of their bravery. And Totsuka Sensei, a Japanese lawyer, is the one who figured this out. He has spent his career, and what he also found, and why I have this passage up, is that the first example of comfort women was in Japan. And it was women, they were over 17, which in Japanese law in the 1930s was a woman, but they were trafficked by deception to Shanghai, and they escaped. And they got back to Japan, and they sued their captors, and they won. But everybody denied this case happened, and as Totsuka Sensei writes, the author has had the good fortune to locate the documents, the evidence, to prove what had happened, because in the 1930s, the Japanese courts ruled in favor of the women. And this case actually is also why then, grotesquely, the government of Japan decided to move to its colonial territories and terrorize particularly young Korean girls and women. Could we go to the next slide, please? Watanabe Minasan, the woman who runs Women's Active Museum Against War in Tokyo. She is the one who is on the right of that slide. Please feel free to share the slides later with anybody who wants. Minasan created this map. It's a scatter plot map, and those red dots are the comfort stations that are known. And I find this, as a teacher, the most important handout I give my students all the time, because this also helps all of us explain that this is not Korea versus Japan, which is what the government of Japan would like Japanese people to believe. They would like Japanese people, young people, to believe that it's the Koreans creating a problem that doesn't exist. But when you look at the absolute scope of this history of horror, so I personally, many scholars, activists, for whom I have a lot of respect, use the term genocide with this history. I personally don't with this history, but I am happy to be proven. They use the term genocide because mercury was used as an abortifacient with the children. But the Yale Genocide Project uses this same kind of scatter plot map to look for future genocides. And this scatter map just stuns me every time I look at it. Because if you look at the intensity of where these are and the way the system worked, how does a young girl born in Busan end up in the South Pacific in 1942? She doesn't have papers, she doesn't have money, but she has travel documents. And those documents are state-sponsored. And those state-sponsored documents have been found. And so when the deniers say we don't have evidence, we do have evidence. And the way the evidence is protected and preserved and also presented is what I find fascinating about what Monica's project is doing, what this whole endeavor to bring new faces to this. If we could go to the next slide. Sorry, I don't mean to be sidetracked, but this map to me is amazing. And so then we have Kurihara. We have the current we have the Chief Cabinet Secretary currently, really different from Chief Cabinet Secretary Kono Yohei, who actually admitted this happened. And the current Chief Cabinet Secretary says, no, comfort women didn't happen, and the government of Japan needs to work on its history consciousness again. So I think we're in for another blood slinging, but I'm not sure whether anybody's going to listen anymore because of the internet. So many students actually take for granted that this history is true, and they don't read textbooks, so it doesn't really matter what's in them. Could we go to the next slide, please? Because I want to make clear that this is not Japan alone, right? We've got, Russia has taken the gulag out of gulag history. And even today, again, President Trump is writing about the Smithsonian, saying we need to put up signs saying slavery wasn't so bad in the United States. And so this, I think part of our effort, collective effort, is not to focus on how bad Japan was, but to contextualize that governments, yes, I don't mean to downplay that. What I mean to say is governments that are back on their heels are nervous and worried. And the one thing they do is try to co-opt history of what happened for their own gain. And so this is not just Japan. Next slide, please. Which brings me to how we approach South Korea, because I'm not opposed to this amendment of the act, but it's tricky because now it's a criminal offense in South Korea to spread false information. And if I say objectively, I don't disagree, because when you go to a Wednesday demonstration and the people who want, the South Koreans who would like to deny this history show up and shout that the women are prostitutes and they're in it for the money, I want to put them in jail myself. I'm not sure that criminalizing speech is effective, but I put that out there just so we all know that South Korea is involved in this as well, and maybe something we should consider talking about. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to come back to, was there a slide in between? I don't know. But now we're going to come back to, oh, if not, that's cool. So this book got published 2 years ago by Mark Ramsayer and Jason Morgan. And The Hoax, a fake memoir, South Korean spies, hit squads in the academic swamp. Okay, the woman one of the people who reviewed the book and blurbed it, Kate Litvak, she and her husband were found to have stolen $1.5 million, but that doesn't matter to the Harvard professor of Mitsubishi, the Mitsubishi professor of Japanese law at Harvard. If you step back from the moment, you could not be a more powerful academic in the United States. He is white, he is an endowed chair at Harvard Law School. He doesn't ever have to publish or think. I happen to know for a fact that the only students that he takes are fluent in Japanese. That's his condition for entering his class on Japanese law. Wow, that is a protected position. Jason Morgan did not get a job in the United States. He teaches Japanese history in Japan. And okay, so they've decided to accept, and I do have evidence for this, they accept money from the government of Japan to target those of us who work on this issue. And this is how they got their promotion this year with this book. Could we have the next slide, please? Okay, so January 2022, I'm just going, this is the slide I showed at the beginning. If you go to the number 1 at the bottom, the complainant is hereby dismissed for failure to prosecute. Great. Next slide, please.
Is there for sure one that follows this? I'm not.
There should be one that shows the, sorry, that was the, so, okay, there should be maybe behind. There should be one that shows
There's a blank
the
one,
action.
and then there's,
Ah, that's interesting that it went blank. Huh. Okay, I'm gonna read from what's on my end, if that's all right, and I apologize that this is wordy, but that's what evidence is, super wordy. Really, can I, it's in really so between judicializing history and the hoax did not come through?
No, it did not. It's
Wow.
blank.
Okay, so I'm going to take a photograph and send it to the WhatsApp thing right now, if that's okay? Because this is the piece of evidence I wanted everybody to see the most, because what the University of Connecticut, if Seren is on this and she can share it, or I'll just send it to the group if that's okay.
yes, feel free, and we can post it right now.
Can she also?
I am sending, where is that? I don't have it. Okay, so what's interesting is this is dated March 28th, 2020. Dear Public Records Custodian, this is a typical FOIA, Request Freedom of Information Act. This is my 5th time having literally my 5th time having all my email approached. Hold on, I'm just going to the WhatsApp because maybe Seren can share it with everybody in the room. Yes, I can do, yes, I was added, stay, take photo. Sorry, I'm old, I have to talk to my computer while I use it. Because, okay, my public records request has not been fulfilled for 1 month. Immediately release all responsive records. It's signed by Park Geun-hye as a journalist. I kid you not. I have blacked out the names of people. I have done the writing, but Park Geun-hye made this request. There is no, this is Jason Morgan, but this is how the FOIA records work. It's interesting to me that this one document didn't come through. Please, I just sent it to the Glendale seminar. If somehow that can be put up, and it's not the University of Connecticut's fault that they didn't recognize this as a ruse right away, because, you know, the young person working in the communications office doesn't know who Park Geun-hye is. We're in Storrs, Connecticut, and has an obligation to do the FOIA request. But then I spent the next 2 years literally redacting 5,000 pages of email because the request was Jeff, Comfort Women, Mark. Jeff and Mark are two colleagues with whom I had worked on the 2015 condemnation of the Japanese government's approach, but I have a lot of friends named Jeff and Mark. And then Comfort Women is not unusual in my regular email with my students. So thousands of documents appeared, and I wouldn't release them because I didn't want to implicate anybody that was not involved, and it was nothing I could do to stop this. But again, unlike colleagues at other institutions, I had the backing of the state of Connecticut, 4 lawyers, literally 4 lawyers, and they were like, what is this about? I said, the Japanese government doesn't think they lost World War II, which in the state of Connecticut was the easiest way to say what was going on. But if you could share that, and then we go to the end.
It's on the
and
screen
then-
right now.
Okay, great. So people can see that Park Geun-hye, no, of course it wasn't Park Geun-hye. I mean, that's their joke. And so you can imagine these 2 white guys, Mark Ramsayer, Jason Morgan, think it's hilarious to do that. And we can read everything we want to read into that, and I have, but all of my documents had to get released. Then, fast forward, I'm sorry this has gone on too long, then back to, if we could go to the final slide again, Jason Morgan didn't show up to the trial that I ended up, not trial, but it was like, it was a hearing with a judge, it was on Zoom, and I'm sitting in exactly the same, that's why I'm sitting here. I was sitting here, I was so nervous, right? I've never been to, like, I haven't been accused of anything. And so I'm sitting in what, I had lawyers on the screen, I've got a judge on the screen, I'm sitting here sweating bullets, I've talked to everybody I know who's a lawyer, and they're like, just tell the truth. And I did. And the complainant did not show up because he did not have evidence. So that's my point, and I'm sorry I went on too long, but I just wanted to applaud your efforts at telling the truth.
Alexis, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for sharing this. And yeah, you know, given everything that has happened over the past couple of days, you know, we would just like to wish you well, and we know that you have to sign off right now. Thank you again so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for letting me in.